What's up, guys? Welcome to Living the Denver Boulder Lifestyle. My name is Rachel Kennedy. Today we're going to be digging into the best suburbs in the Boulder area. I just got done doing a virtual tour for some clients of mine who are relocating here from California to the Boulder area for work and asked me for my personal recommendations on the best suburbs in the Boulder area that I would recommend. They want to be within a 20 to 30 minute drive of Boulder, so I thought this was a great opportunity to put together a video for everybody to dig into the best suburbs in the Boulder area. So I'm going to head back to the office and let's dig into these. All right, so we're back at the office. Before we get started on digging into the best suburbs of the Boulder area, I would love if you would subscribe and turn on those notifications so that you get notified every time I put new videos out, which is every Thursday afternoon. As well, I am a licensed broker here in the state of Colorado, so as much as I love putting this content together for you to help you navigate making a move out here, I would love even more to help you with those real estate needs. So please feel free to hit me up on that number or that email that is popping up on your screen below. All right, so I did a ton of research on my favorite suburbs of the Boulder area. So let's dig into these. I will caveat this with they are in no particular order. So first we're gonna talk about Longmont, but that doesn't mean that Longmont is my number one choice. They all offer something a little bit different. So let's dig in. Longmont is located about 20 minutes to the northeast of Boulder. If you follow Ken Pratt Boulevard, which runs diagonally to the northeast, you'll run in directly to Longmont. Longmont has two counties that serve the city itself. There's a road called County Line Road that will separate the city of Longmont between Boulder County on the western side and Weld County on the eastern side of County Line Road. So if you do some research and you know that you want to be in Boulder County or you know you want to be in Weld County, make sure that you pay attention to which side of the County Line Road that you're buying on. Longmont as a whole feeds into the St. Vrain Valley School District, and this is probably one of the drawbacks of Longmont itself. Even if you're buying into Boulder Valley, you're still not feeding into the Boulder Valley School District. And if you watched any of my previous videos, you'll notice that I talk a lot about the fact that Boulder Valley School District is oftentimes number one, if not number two district in the entire state. So buying into Boulder County, but not having the advantage of feeding into Boulder Valley schools is a little bit of a downfall for me. And that's not to say that St. Vrain Valley schools are not good, but they aren't as good as Boulder Valley. All right, so Longmont offers itself to being like a true small town. There's not a ton of surrounding Longmont, so it is very self-contained. You'll find all of your box stores and several grocery store options within Longmont itself. So you won't have to travel outside of Longmont like you do in Golden to go to your Home Depot or your Walmart, etc. So I like that about Longmont for sure. The charming small town feel is definitely aided by its very charming Main Street area. Longmont has one of the best main streets in the Denver Boulder area, in my opinion. They have a ton of restaurants, a ton of really cute locally owned shops, some old bookstores, an old theater, like performance theater, not movie theater. Just really, really cool, really nice to just like stroll along the main street and kind of discover all these little treasures. And surprisingly, Longmont has a pretty decent food scene. So living in Longmont and looking for a nicer restaurant, you don't necessarily have to travel to Denver or Boulder to go out to maybe a celebratory dinner. You can find it right there in Longmont. Longmont does have its very own farmers market, which is hosted usually from May to September, and that happens every Saturday morning on the Boulder County Fairgrounds. There's also a ton of locally owned farms in the area that set up roadside produce stands and stuff like that. So if you just peruse around Longmont, you'll be able to find some fresh produce that's not at the grocery store. Longmont also has a lake called McIntosh Lake, and McIntosh Lake is kind of a little gem. They allow for SUPs or paddle boards, kayaks on the lake, some fishing as well. No motorized vehicles are allowed on the lake. The lake also has a really nice walking trail and a couple of big parks that surround the lake. So there's volleyball, tennis courts, you can host events, picnics, all that kind of stuff. So McIntosh Lake is definitely a gem, especially being that Colorado does not have a ton of fresh bodies of water. So when we get one, we really hold on to it. I would say the majority of the residents in Longmont are either longtime residents of Longmont, maybe they grew up there and never left, or they came in for the affordability that Longmont offers over the Boulder area. So very family-oriented community in Longmont. And a lot of the residents in Longmont are either remote workers or they're likely commuting into the Denver area or the Boulder area. So one thing to note is that if you're considering the Longmont area, but you know you're going to be commuting into Denver, is that Longmont does not have a great direct connection to Denver. You're going to spend at least 20 minutes getting yourself to the highway to get yourself to Denver. So I would say the commute from Longmont to Denver is probably going to be at least 35, if not 45 minutes. The commute into Boulder, however, is only going to be about 20 minutes, and you can avoid highways altogether and just shoot right down Ken Pratt Boulevard. All right, so let's talk housing prices in Longmont. The average home price is $580,000. When we compare that to the $964,000 of the average Boulder home price, you have a huge gap between the affordability in Longmont versus Boulder. And you'll find a very large range of home prices in Longmont itself. You can step into a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo for as little as $250,000 and go all the way up to a 118-acre equestrian ranch in the multi-million-dollar range. One of my other favorite things about Longmont is that you find a very wide range of housing options in the Longmont area. So the housing surrounding the Main Street area is old Longmont, and you'll find beautiful turn-of-the-century Victorians, some really nice charming brick bungalows. So that's where the majority of the older homes are going to be concentrated. You'll find some sporadic, 1950s, 60s built ranches, some land, right once you go farther out from the city center. And they are still developing a couple different communities in the Longmont area. There are 2 communities that are currently being developed. And in my opinion, the home prices in these 2 communities are very accessible. You can step into a new build for as little as $550,000. And if your tastes are a little more extravagant, you can find custom new builds all the way into the multi-million-dollar range. All right, so let's talk about my likes for Longmont. I love the downtown area. It is very charming, and the homes surrounding the downtown area have a ton of character, and I'm a sucker for a turn-of-the-century Victorian, so that kind of hits my sweet spot there. But you also have a huge range of availability of newer built homes in Longmont as well. Now, I love a good small town, and Longmont definitely has a true small town feel going for it. So if you love a small town like I do, Longmont might be your perfect spot. If you're more of a city person, I would say stick closer to Boulder or Denver. And of course, I have to like the fact that the home prices in Longmont are very, very accessible for a wide range of buyers. All right, so let's talk about my dislikes. My number one dislike is that Longmont is set apart from both of our major highways that feed into Denver and to Boulder. So Longmont is about a 20-minute drive to the north from Highway 36 and about a 20-minute drive to the west from Highway I-25. So if you know you're going to be using 36 or I-25 to commute every day, Longmont is definitely going to be a little bit of a haul to get yourself there. My second dislike is the fact that even though you could buy into Boulder County, you still don't get access to the Boulder Valley School District, and that's definitely a little bit of a downfall. And my third dislike is the fact that niche.com rated the crime and safety in Longmont a C+. I found this really, really surprising, but I also don't personally live in Longmont, so perhaps there is more crime there that I'm just not privy to. All right, so let's talk about the number 2 suburb of the Boulder area, and this is going to be the Louisville-Lafayette area. Now, technically, Louisville and Lafayette are 2 totally separate cities, but I'm lumping them together because they're so close together that they really could be one city. Louisville and Lafayette are located about 10 miles to the east of Boulder, or about a 20-minute drive from Louisville into the center of Boulder. And the pro is that you could totally avoid highways and just take back roads altogether if you really wanted to. Combined, Louisville and Lafayette have a population of about 50,000 people, and both Louisville and Lafayette do feed into Boulder County, and they also both feed into Boulder Valley School District. So this gets a plus for sure. Each city, Louisville and Lafayette, have its own little downtown area, its own little main street, which means that you have plenty of options for locally owned shops and restaurants. I know that the city of Lafayette is doing some big things to boost up their Main Street area. They're doing some big renovations, so definitely one to keep your eye on. But both have great both dining and shopping options, and they're both super close together, which is a total bonus. One thing that I found super surprising when I was doing my research is that niche.com rated the crime and safety in Lafayette a C+, and the crime and safety in Louisville a B-. Now, I am super surprised by this because I have never seen any like vagrants, or I don't think they have a big homeless problem. So I'm wondering where the issues with the crime and the safety come from. I've personally never experienced it, so again, I'm really surprised by this. The average home price in Louisville, Lafayette combined is $829,000. Now, I know this seems high, right? It's all relative. Depends on where you're coming from. But when we compare it to the $964,000 average home price in Boulder, you definitely get a little bit of a price break by coming over to Louisville, Lafayette area. Buyers can step into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, newer built townhouse for about $375,000, all the way up to $4.9 million for a 134-acre ranch, with the greatest amount of homes sitting between that $750 and $975 price point. Both Lennar and Century Community have new developments coming into the Louisville, Lafayette area. These new build communities have a really wide range of home prices. You can step into a $450,000 new build townhouse, all the way to $1 million plus for the largest floor plan single family home. Most of the new builds in the inventory do sit right around that $800,000 price point though. And if the big box builders aren't really your bag, you can find small custom builders who are building anywhere from the $1 million range all the way up to the $3.5 million range. Something that I want to note here is that the city of Louisville suffered a devastating fire in December of 2021 that wiped out over 1,000 homes. And just in the past year have we started to see those homes being rebuilt. So I found a lot of homes that were in those communities that are being resold. So they present as a new build, but they are in an area that suffered a fire. So I would encourage any buyers who are considering the Louisville area to know what areas were affected by the fires and know what risks you might be taking on by buying in that area. All right, so let's talk about my likes for the Louisville Lafayette area. The location I think is like my #1 like because you have super easy access to Boulder and you have equally as easy access to the Denver area. So Louisville Lafayette does sit right off of the 36 corridor, and 36 will take you north into Boulder or south into Denver, about 20 minutes either way. And also because of its location, you get great views of the Rocky Mountains in the Louisville area. You're just far enough away from the foothills that you get some really great panoramic views. And my last like for the Lafayette Louisville area is the fact that they feed into the Boulder Valley schools. All right, and I only have 2 dislikes on my list here. My #1 dislike is the fact that Louisville did suffer those fires in 2021, and I would just caution those buyers considering this area to understand, are you going to have higher insurance premiums, and what is the city and the county talking about doing for taxes, because they had a lot of infrastructure that they had to put back together as well. So again, just do your due diligence. If you want help in knowing what areas were affected, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to help give you some guidance. And my second dislike on this list is just the housing prices. Definitely higher than our average home price in Denver, but a little bit lower than the average home price in Boulder. All right, and our third suburb on our list is going to be Erie. Erie is located about 15 miles directly to the east of Boulder, and it does butt right up to Highway I-25, which makes for a really easy commute both to the west into Boulder or down south into Denver. Erie's population is right around 30,000, and much like Longmont, Erie is served by 2 different counties, Boulder County on the western side and Weld County on the eastern side. Now again, there's a road called County Line Road in Erie, and if you're buying on the west side, you'll be in Boulder County, and on the east side, you'll be in Weld County. Now, unlike Longmont and Erie, if you buy on the Boulder County side of County Line Road, you will feed into Boulder Valley schools. So this might be a reason why you might consider Erie over Longmont, if feeding into Boulder County is important to you. Now, on the Weld County note, Erie was just voted the #1 city to live in all of Weld County. And Weld County is a really, really big county. So that's definitely a bragging point. Erie used to be a small little farming town that no one talked about until about 20 years ago. Some developers came in and started developing some smaller planned unit development communities. And those stayed quiet for a little while. And then about 10 years ago, all the developers discovered Erie and started building in Erie. So Erie's housing population has almost doubled itself in the last 10 years. And being that Erie used to be farmland, it is very prairie-like. So while you do get some great views of the mountains, don't expect any rolling hills. It is very, very flat in Erie. Erie does have a small historic little downtown area, but there's not a ton of restaurants, not a ton of shops. It's probably about 2, maybe 3 blocks at best. And I've never really been super impressed with any of the dining options in Erie. So if you're looking for a special night out, you'll probably have to pop into Louisville, Boulder, or Denver. With Erie blowing up in the last 10 years, a lot of the demographic in Erie is going to be younger families who bought those new builds and are currently raising their families. So that makes for a really great tight-knit community feel if you're also one of those younger families. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely plenty of other demographics within Erie, but the young families is definitely the majority of the population. So let's talk housing. The average home price in Erie is $750,000. To be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised that this was so high. I expected the average housing price in Erie to be a little bit closer to that Longmont $580 average price point. So a little bit higher here in Erie than I expected. But I think that's also due to the fact that a lot of the housing was built within the last 10 years. You can find some condo living, but the majority of the housing, I would probably say 90, maybe even 95% of the housing in Erie is going to be single family properties. You can step into a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo for about $330,000. You can step into a brand new build 2,400 square foot townhouse for $540,000, all the way up to $1.5 million for a brand new build 5,600 square foot brand new home. With an honorable mention for the Lone Ranger of the $2.5 million custom new build, also sitting up in Erie. Let's talk about my likes for Erie. If you like new builds, Erie is going to be your mecca. You will have a ton of options from several different communities, several different builders, several different floor plans, as well as several different price points. I also love the fact that you have some really good school options in Erie. Now again, pay attention to what side of the County Line Road you're buying on, whether you want to be in Boulder Valley School District or St. Vrain Valley School District. Both are great districts, but if you have your eye on a very specific school, make sure you're paying attention. And I love the fact that Erie has so many young families to connect with and really build a community around. I love living in a community where my kids are growing up with their neighbors, and we've known our neighbors since kindergarten. You could definitely find that in Erie. All right, so let's move on to the dislikes that I have for Erie. Because Erie has blown up in its development over the last 10 years, there are not very many established neighborhoods in Erie. So if you like really big, old mature trees and nice green walking paths, Erie isn't plentiful with those. Because Erie is a rapidly growing city with a lot of development still happening in it, the taxes tend to be a little bit higher because they're still building out their city infrastructure. And if you really like older homes, like I do, I love the character, I love the original woodwork, there's not a ton of that in Erie. So if an older home is something that you're looking for, I would definitely recommend you look closer to Louisville or even the Longmont area. You'll have much more options in the Louisville or the Longmont area. All right, and that concludes my 3 favorite suburbs of the Boulder area. I hope this was helpful, and as always, I'm here as your resource, so feel free to shoot any questions over to me at the number or that email that is popping up below. I'll see you next time.